Good morning, wonderful people. Thanks for stopping by here at Shabby Cottage Studio. This is Gail, and it is 4th of July. It has been 4th of July weekend. It is now 4th of July morning. I know lots of people here in the States have been celebrating with barbecues and beach trips and picnics and fireworks and all of that good stuff. If you're not in the States celebrating, I hope you've had a wonderful weekend anyway. I did want to just address something, actually two things. If I sound a little peculiar, it's because I'm recuperating from a little bug I had last week. Nothing serious, just had me down for a few days, and now I'm just getting rid of cough and congestion. So that's why I might sound a bit nasally. And then the other thing is, when I do a video, a lot of times you might notice I have to reach for some water. And the reason for that is I do have a health condition that has removed all of the saliva from my mouth. So for a number of years now, I have to carry a water bottle and I constantly sip on it 24/7. Even at night, trying to sleep, I have to reach for the water bottle because who knew that a person could actually lose the saliva in their mouth? And while it's no fun, I deal with it, and the way I deal with it is by sipping on water constantly. So if I don't, I can talk for a few minutes, and then I can't talk anymore because there's nothing left in my mouth. So I just wanted to put that out there so you might know why I'm always reaching for water. Anyway, I have this brand new Waterfall Journal that I just completed. It is in a shabby vintage style, and I made a pouch to carry the journal in. I think this pouch was fun because I made it out of a brown paper bag, and I've never done that before. It took me a little bit to figure out the engineering, but once I figured it out, I went to town with it. First, I had to glue parts and pieces of the bag to keep things from flipping and flopping, and so after I did that, I covered the front and the back with some vintage ledger paper. Let me see the back here. This is the end that opens, so this was the opening of the brown bag, and you know how those edges are often very flimsy, so I reinforced them with some cardstock inside and out so it's nice and sturdy. And I also covered those edges with some vintage lace. On this end, I have some more of my vintage ledger paper, but this is paper that I painted in a grungy style, and you will see that on the cover of the journal. But let me just show you on the back. You can see it up close a little better. That is the ledger paper painted. This painted. So that is the back of the pouch. And then on the front, I just added this large vintage doily and some embroidered, I'm thinking it was a thin, it's very old. I don't know how old it is, but it's very old. It's like see-through. It's so thin. So I don't know if it's linen or what the exact make of this is. I've always seen these in linen, and they're usually some kind of napkin. This one has got some butterflies embroidered on the edge. I didn't have the whole piece, just pieces of it, so I'm not exactly positive that it was a napkin, but that's usually when I see this kind of edging, that's usually where I see it, is on some kind of napkin. And then I use some Tim Holtz fabric washi tape. I scrambled through my flower box and I found a fabric flower that I had made years ago. So I just added a button to it, a little paper flower, some little paper roses, and some of my favorite, the millinery flowers. And then just a crinkly, kind of shabby looking seam binding bow and a label. This, I do believe, is a Tracy Fox label. So I kept this, I think, pretty simple. It does have a magnet closure, and I put a thumb hole right here to make it easier to get your finger in to open it. And I think that's all I need to tell you about the pouch. Oh, it is about 13 inches long and it's 7 inches wide. I make my pouches a good size so that once the journal has been filled more, there is room to put it back into the pouch. And this journal is one of my, what I've been calling my mostly naked journal. And that is that I have left lots of room inside the journal for whoever takes this beauty home. Has lots of either writing room and or decorating room. So it does have room to grow. Let me go ahead and take the journal out, and I will move this aside just so you can see. See if I can. Can you see the brown paper down in there? Just show you, it is a brown paper bag, and you can hear the magnet. So it's got a nice closure on it, and it's a sturdy pouch. Alright, back to the journal. Again, this cover is created with ledger paper that I have painted in a very grungy style. It has the same seam binding that I used for the bow on the pouch, and it is not attached. It's just wrapped around so you can remove it, which is what I'm going to do right now so that we can take a look at this. And I'm going to open it up this way so you can see the front and back at the same time, and you can see more of the painting that I did on the ledger paper. This is just a piece of lace from a larger piece. It was probably some kind of maybe a table cover, and it was made up of these rectangles of lace, so I just cut this one apart and attached it to the journal cover. And of course I have a label. I stamped the word Remembrance on it, and then there's just some little vintage embroidery down here. On the signature, I've done some more vintage lace, and there is some tatting also. When you close it, you see more of the tatting. What I did here was I was inspired by a recent video by Tracy Fox. She was doing, I do believe it was a tag, and she tore an opening in it and then put an image behind it, and I thought, oh, that's really cool, let me do that on this journal cover. And that's how that came about, this lovely lady. Now, she is not pristine. You can see some marks on her because, again, shabby and grungy together. So I've just kind of dirtied up some things. Yes, I dirtied them on purpose. Anyway, I did sew around the entire journal in black thread, and I did a messy stitch. Messy stitches. I sewed around it a couple times. It is 9 inches tall, and if you take the entire width of the journal, it is about, I believe, 7 inches wide. No, 6 inches. No. Wait a minute. Excuse me. 5 1/4. I was way off. All right, let's see what's inside. I do have a double layer of lace on the front edge, and when you open it up, you can see one of the layers. There is a pocket. Excuse me, some water. There is a pocket. Now, this journal, like my last one, I used as many scraps as I could find in my scrap piles that I felt went inside or went with this journal. This pocket happened to be one of them. It came from another project, so it even already had the stitching on it. So it's just something that I didn't use in another project, and it was perfect. Perfect size and style. So I used that here. This tag. This is an authentic bank document. I do believe it was like a register. It's got a date, 1924, and these monthly dates, and then over here was some dollar amount, so I'm just thinking it was like a running register. I added a couple little labels on this end. This was a scrap I had in my scrap bin. I'm thinking that might be some paper from Ruby and Pearl, and then just a sari silk bow on the top, and it's just on some craft cardstock. So there's room for journaling on the back. I covered the inside, front and back cover with some cardstock, and I added a vintage stamp. I don't know the year, but the postage was 3 cents, so you know it's vintage. So we'll stick that back in there. On this page, the word grace, I have a word, what I call my word box, and it's just a box that I keep with papers and fabrics that I either have stamped or printed or sewn words or sayings on it. And so when I dug through that, I found this is my favorite word, grace. And so this was perfect. I just darkened it a little bit and added it to this page. And let me take all this little ephemera out of here. I'll show you that in just a second. But I wanted to show you down at the bottom, this is just the bottom portion of a little black paper bag I had. And some tatting on the top. I've kind of folded that front down. I didn't really have room to do well, I couldn't get my punch in there to do a thumb hole, so I just folded it over, and I just thought that fit that aged look. This little ephemera, if I can pick it up, they're just okay, this is just some Tim Holtz, the little Tim Holtz people. I've never had them before, and a while back I bought some, and this is the first time I've used them, so I added them in. I thought they would be fun to play with. There are some different kinds of labels. I do believe that most of these here in my hand are Tracy Fox labels. I think that's also a Tracy Fox label. Let me get those out of the way. And then these are some of my favorite. I use these all the time. These are, I believe, is called Saturday Stamper. It's an Etsy store. So I put some of those labels in there. This is a vintage, I think it's from a bus line, because on the back it says private party travel, hire your coach from us. So I think it's something to do with, it's not a ticket. I'm not sure. It's not stamped or anything in here. So who knows. But I like it. So I'll put that in there. And then I just have some little tickets. Let me just put these back in their little pocket. And those little people. There's also a pocket here. I've put in a long journaling tag with a tab on it, and the metal piece I just added for fun. Journaling tag. Collaged it. This is a piece of muslin fabric that I stamped and then sewed around. Did some paper collaging there with scraps. The other item in here is, this is beyond vintage, this is antique. This is, I have a small stack of French documents dating back to the 1600s and the late 1500s. This one is I think something like 1597. And I love these. I adore the handwriting on these, and it's not brittle paper for its age. It amazes me. So it has been, my husband and I were talking about it, it has been put somewhere safe for all of these centuries, these decades, and has survived beautifully. So anyway, I added that into this pocket. when you turn the page. This is like a legal document that I have, 1895. It's French. I'm not sure what kind of document, but this is like a folder cover, and this is a reproduction of a digital of that original. I have sewn around it. I printed it out on newsprint. I like to print on newsprint for documents or images that I want to kind of give an aged feel to, because newsprint's so thin. And then on the other side is digital of a letter. This was dated 1870 something. And of course the stitching shows. This was actually, I'm sorry, I don't remember who this digital is from. Again, it was in my scrap bin. And you know, when you print using inkjet, a lot of times it just really depends, I guess, on your ink and your printer. The the ink will bleed, or in some instances disappear if it gets wet. And so sometimes, in order for me to make something look even more aged, I actually wet an inkjet, which is what happened here. And you can see where I have added some water, or maybe it was an ink spray. I don't remember exactly, because it was in my scrap bin, and I don't know how long it's been in there. But I tore the edges, I sewed around it, did some distressing, and I added a little saying at the bottom. This is a heavy paper, and then I backed it onto a piece of stained paper about the same weight, so it almost has a feel of cardstock. This is more newsprint. Actually, this is not newsprint. It's like newsprint. It's packing paper, and I use this when I get big sheets of it in, what am I talking about? I save it, period, no matter what size it is, in packages, and then I use the larger sheets underneath my papers when I'm painting or staining, and because I usually get some really cool effects, like this one. So I love this color. This is some more of my stained paper. It looks like I had probably laid a stencil on top of it while it was drying. So I like that look. That's the back of it. Some more stained. This is just some like brown wrapping paper. And then here's some more of that. I'm just going to call it a napkin, an embroidered napkin. So pretty. It's very old. Vintage music paper. This is actually a stain from some very old cellophane tape or scotch tape, whatever you want to call it, and then on top of it I layered some of my faux tape, and then on the back I folded it up, did a pocket. There's some, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there is some, it's very faint, embossed paper there, and a label, and then a journaling card. Little piece of fabric there. This is from Chapter 1. This is a vintage postage stamp. This is one of my labels, and then the stamp is Sam Poole design. I love that. I use it a lot. I've probably said that before in other videos. Some more of that packing paper that was under my painting and got beautifully stained. Sewed around the edges, folded this side up, and made a pocket. And then just a collaged journaling card. Some vintage dictionary paper. This was where I took it out of the dictionary as the two pages together. I didn't rip one page out, and so I strengthened the seam right there on both sides. Some more of my stained paper and more of the ledger paper. This edge right here, This actually came out of a book that I deconstructed. This is, I'm not sure what they call it, but this is what they would put in some books on in the spine area. And whenever I can get pieces of that I can use, I definitely save those. So that's where that edging came from. This is just a decorative paper bag. And then I stamped on a little piece of muslin. I added a tag. Just did a little... It's hard when you're doing white embossing paper sometimes for it to show up on the camera, but there's some embossed paper and then just a scrap from a digital. There's some more of that linen napkin and some more scrap paper and some sari silk as a bow. And then I made this a flip, so when you turn it over on this side, this is some chapter 1 paper that had been printed, feels like it was printed on cardstock, and I fussy cut around that. And I made a large tag, did some collaging. There's some embossed paper here. This is from a French textbook, and some more textbook, some fabric, some scrap paper. This image is one of mine. This is an image, it's a photo that I took years ago, and I've been putting together some more Polaroid digitals for my shop, and I'm doing a set of what I call grungy Polaroids, and this is one of them. It's not in the shop yet, but it will be soon. So I tucked that in. Some more faux tape, excuse me, and just some of my pastel papers that I stain. I love the way they turn out. Another pocket, a little sari silk ruffle with some stitching, some little muslin back there. No, that's some scrim, and then just some, I believe that's packing cardboard. No, it's cardstock, I think, that I just ripped and aged on the edge with Distress ink. And then a journaling card with some embossed stenciling, and then this is embossed paper. So just a little collage of things there. This flips out. Some nice lines to write on, and some more embossed stenciling on the vintage dictionary page. This pocket has this little booklet I made out of a French textbook, and I left it I added this little piece of scrap paper, but then I just left it alone because I thought this would be something fun someone could play with and decorate the covers. They could add some papers in here, make a little notebook out of it. They could add pockets, whatever they want to do. So I thought that would be fun for someone to play with. This is some more of that vintage sheet music, and then this is an actual vintage letter from 1937. And I take that back. It's not a letter. Inside there is a vintage birthday card. So it must have been Mrs. J.B. Thomas's birthday in August of 1937. I embossed this edge of the envelope, added some lace, some washi tape, some more lace on the back. There's some more of my fabric words, so I just sewed around that. You can see on the inside of the flap. Excuse me. This flap was ripped here, so I just addressed that edge with some scrap paper, more washi tape, and a little bit of tatting. And then the birthday card, it's just a simple little happy birthday to Mrs. J.B. Thomas. So I thought that was sweet. Tuck that in the pocket. Let's put it in this way. This flips out. And then here's a little tuck, And then I just put a large, I cut a large tag out of manila folder and tucked that in here because I thought that would be fun for someone to play with and decorate any way they wanted. Now, turn the page. You can see there's a lot of decorating and writing room in this journal. There's some more embossed paper scrap. And that letter, I do believe it's 1874, that digital copy. Excuse me. Pardon the glare. This is an old envelope. And, you know, you get a glare whenever you've got something like this in the acetate or whatever this stuff is. I don't know. Plastic. I did a fabric ruffle here. Let me take this out. There we go. Get rid of that glare. And did a large journal card. This image is one of my favorite images. I've been waiting to use this image someplace, and it finally found a home in this journal. And I've just done some, I crumpled it a little bit and folded in some edges and did some distress inks just to age it even more. I added some of my faux tape up here in the corner. This is just a digital of a very vintage envelope, and I can't read the date on it. And again, just did some folding and crumpling, added a little bit of lace here and a little bit of scrim here. So you can see that that was an envelope. Just did some paper scrap here. This is from a 18, well, this date here says 1849. I think there's an 1850 date in this book too. This apparently was a church book that they put out for different churches in the South, I believe, and their conferences. So it had lists of people's names and who was promoted to what position and who passed away, that kind of thing. Interesting. Very old book. All these stains are natural. Let's stick that back in. And then you come to the back cover. Another pocket. This came out of an old photo album. And I added a piece of acetate behind it. That's why we're getting a glare if I don't hold it properly. Some more of that vintage napkin. And then I created a tag to go inside. Just did some collaging with some scraps and another sari bow. This is from a German textbook. Just put that back in the pocket. And that is the end of the journal. So I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe there was something in it that inspired you. Thank you for stopping by. I really always appreciate your visits, and hello to new subscribers, hello to subscribers who have come back, hello to people who just stopped by and didn't subscribe, hello to everybody. So I hope you all stay creative, and I will see you soon. Bye.